Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 213 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. You know who's with me. It is of course the infamous, the elusive Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself?
Very good, my friend. Very good. I don't expect this week's review and preview to last too long because we're going to go through things as quick as possible. Bit of a rocky start there, but let's start here with the review part of the St Mary's Band Club in New South Wales, Australia. Just really one fight to mention. Former heavyweight world champion, friend of the show, Lucas Brown, now 29-2. It was a TKO for him in 2 rounds against John Hoput, who now has a record of 12-7. Like I say, a second round TKO there for Lucas Brown against a real overmatched opponent. Moving out now to York Hall. This one was really the card of last weekend. Clarissa Shields was sat ringside, obviously just lending her support to the girls fighting on the bill. I think there was just one female fight, if I'm not mistaken, but also I believe she's been sparring with Hannah Rankin. But anyway, the actual card itself, Chantel Cameron, she moved to 12-0. It was a win over Anihi Sanchez, former opponent of Katie Taylor, now 19-5. Sanchez was down in the fight, I think just the one time, and other than that, Chantel pitched a complete shutout. So a couple of cards that actually saw 100 points to 89, so literally 10 rounds to 0 with a 10-8 in there. So incredibly dominant there from Chantel Cameron. That is quite impressive against Sanchez, who is a decent fighter to a certain level. Also on that bill, we got to see Michael McKinson, real talented fighter, now 18-0 against a very tough Luis Veron, who's now 17-1 with 2 draws. Again, I said it on last week's show, I think both men were highly ranked with the WBC. I think actually Veron was ranked above McKinson, so a good fight there at the very top of the WBC rankings. McKinson, like I say, still got that perfect record intact. He takes the O of Veron there. Quite wide on the scorecards as well. 98-90, 99-89 and 97-91. So by 6 rounds at the very minimum, over 10 there. Moving down the card, Liam Walsh picked up a win, a 10th round unanimous decision win against the very game Maxie Hughes, now 19-5 with 2 draws. Liam Walsh 23-1. It was for the vacant WBO European lightweight title. Interesting really for Liam Walsh. I mean, obviously he fouled against Gervonta Davis, no shame in that. He disappeared from the sport for what seems like about 2.5 years, something like that, perhaps even 3 years, I think. And then he's back. He's obviously moved up now to lightweight. He picks up a little WBO, minor belt here, the WBO European title. It's going to be interesting to see him make a run at lightweight. He's got a lot of ability, but I just don't know if that inactivity, that period out of the ring after having the biggest fight of his life may have cost him. You know what I mean? He should have been back in the gym, a couple weeks later. And I don't doubt he probably was back in the gym, actually, not long afterwards, because, he hasn't packed on loads and loads of pounds. But where he was inactive, didn't really have anything, there was no light at the end of the tunnel for him for a while. He didn't really have anything on the horizon, is what I was trying to say. And he took his eye off the ball. He didn't keep motivated for all that time out. It may have cost him. We shall see. Danny Dignam picked up a win. He looked very good, actually. 12-0 now. A TKO in the 5th round against Comrade Cummins. Comrade Cummins, it seems like it's all gone wrong for him. The WBO European title on the line again. I think Cummins has lost for that belt a couple of times now. His record, like I say, 17-4 with a draw. Danny Dignam 12-0, the new WBO European middleweight champion. Again, that'll open some doors for him. Daniel Egbenike now 6-0. He's the new Southern Area Super Lightweight Champion. He was able to beat Billy Allington over 10 rounds on points, 97-93, the scorecard from the referee Lee Cook. Billy Allington was undefeated, 8-0 with 2 draws, now 8-1 with 2 draws. Good win there for Egbenike, really impressing around that Southern Area kind of level at the minute. Moving out now to the Chansey Park in Fresno, California, USA. Firstly, to mention on the undercard, we got to see Robisi Ramirez, obviously the Olympic gold medalist. He started his pro career, I think, back in August of this year. He obviously lost on his debut, and he managed to get a win here, a KO in the 6th and final round against Fernando Anda, who was only 2-1 himself, so quite inexperienced as a pro. Ramirez 1-1 now, his record, of course. Amir Imam picked up a KO in the 4th round against Marcos Mojica, who's now 16-5 with 2 draws. Amir Imam now 22-2. Moving up the card, Kubrat Pulev picked up a unanimous decision win over 10 rounds against Rydell Booker, 26-2. I think I said on last week's show, both men had a combined age of 72, I believe it is. Kubrat Pulev, I was quite surprised didn't get Booker out of there. I think he's quite tough, but it was really one-sided, over the 10 rounds. I was quite surprised that Booker was able to hang in there. Some of the shots I see him take were real big ones. Kubrat Pulev 28-1. I almost had to double take his record. I think Pulev's still a guy that hasn't even had 30 fights. But when I think of Pulev, I know he's quite long in the tooth in terms of his age. He's like 35 going on 36, something like that. And you expect he's probably had around 40 or 35 fights. But no, he's only had 29 fights. That was his 29th fight right there. Of course, topping the bill, Jamel Herring, now 21-2. It was a win unanimously over 12 rounds against a very, very tough and game and motivated, hungry Lamont Roach Jr., now 19-1 with 1 draw. Firstly, the entrance was unbelievable from Herring. I mean, they've made quite a thing of his entrances in the past. He's had Marines making some kind of human archway for him, and he's come out, in between it, saluting as he does. But this was unbelievable, this ring walk here. He came out in some kind of army convoy. There was camo everywhere. He looked really cool. There was lots and lots of Marines. I think over 150 Marines were bringing him out. It was unbelievable, actually. He's a. If I had to describe him in one word, Jamel Herring, word association game. If I had to describe him in one word, he's a hero. That's what he is. He's a role model. He's an inspiration. But getting back onto the fight, I do love Jamel Herring. The first round, I felt like Herring was already going to the body of Roach. I think Roach had come off a bit of an inactive spell before the fight, so clever stuff from Herring, investing in that body early. The second round, I felt like Roach was a little bit lucky, to be honest, to not get given a bit of a BS knockdown against him, because his gloves clearly touched the canvas. They didn't show a replay of it, but initially what I saw, it looked like his gloves certainly touched the canvas, and I don't know why the knockdown wasn't given. Lamont Roach just looked second best really to everything at that point. The third round, Roach was being caught coming in. He was being outlanded. If he landed a good shot, Herring would return with like a 3-punch combination just to outdo the good work of Roach. Again, Herring was almost exclusively targeting the body of Roach. He was seriously in control. He was mastering the distance. He looked real comfortable. The mid-rounds is where Roach actually started to have some success of his own. Herring seemed to go quiet really for a couple of rounds. I'm not sure what happened there. He seemed to disappear a little bit. At the end of the 8th round, Herring's corner gave him a bit of a talking to. Bomac in the corner, I think it was, gave him a bit of a talking to, and he came out in that 9th round with a bit more energy. He knocked Roach down, but again, it was ruled a slip. For me, it was a clear knockdown. I think they showed a replay. I think some of the commentary were I think it was Andre Ward and Tim Bradley. They both disagreed with one another. I think one thought it was a knockdown, one didn't. I actually thought it was a knockdown. In the 11th round, Roach actually landed a brilliant shot. It was a right hook, and it made Herring's legs do a serious dance. I mean, luckily for Herring, there was only about 5 seconds left in the round. He held on, but it was quite scary going into that 12th round. And when he came out in the 12th round, Herring, he pretty much just had to survive, and he did more than survived. You know, it was a decent round. I felt like he probably might have even edged it, actually. But yeah, not the best round of the fight, that 12th round. Both men were quite tired, especially Herring. And yeah, on the actual scorecards, I felt like two of them were quite wide. I think two of the judges had it to Herring by 6, and the other judge had it to Herring by 2. That was more like my card. So yeah, a little bit wide, but I felt like the right man won. I think even Lamont Roach Jr. in his post-fight interview kind of, you know, admitted that. He said that he didn't feel like he'd done enough in certain rounds and stuff. So the right man won, and there's no other real complaints. Good to see Herring get a defence there of his belt. He's been patiently waiting for his next fight since winning the title against Ito, and it was good to see him shine like that on a special day for him. And of course the Marines, I think it's some kind of Memorial Day out there in the States that they were celebrating, I think the day after the fight, I believe it was. That's why it was such a big event. Moving out now to the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, USA. I'm going to come to you first here, Ayaz. Billy Joe Saunders managed to move to 29-0, a defense successful of his WBO World Super Middleweight title. His opponent, Marcelo Coceras, I've got to be honest, I was disrespecting him a little bit in the build-up. 28-0, very, very padded with that one draw. He was down 3 times, though, in the 11th round. But I tell you what, he gave Billy Joe a fight, and Billy Joe, for me, did not impress that much until the knockdowns started coming.
You're 100% right. This was Billy Joe. This was meant to be Billy Joe's statement in the US for his first fight in Matchroom Boxing. But obviously, it wasn't the greatest performance. Obviously, well done for Billy Joe and getting the knockout in the 11th round. There was rumours that saying that he had a chest infection, that he had visa issues. But I mean, a win's a win. Obviously, a great knockdown, great knockout. Obviously, it's another knockout for him for the record. He said he wants to call out Canelo. Personally, I don't think Canelo's going to. I don't think Canelo will take that fight because I think Canelo's going to end up fighting Bivol. But I mean, Billy Joe, where does he go from here? He should fight someone like a Gabriel Rosado, which I think would be a decent fight for him. But I mean, this wasn't the best performance, and I think he needs to start stepping up his game.
Yeah, see, Billy Joe has kind of shot himself in the foot because you're right, this was supposed to be his big statement. I do want to touch on the scorecards. At the time of the stoppage, 2 judges had Billy Joe up by 2 points, but the other judge, the third judge, had Coceras up by 2 points, so completely swinging round the other way. You know, he looked good when he was finishing the guy. I think Coceras kind of gassed out a little bit towards those later rounds, and, you know, his guard wasn't as tight as what it was in the earlier rounds. Billy Joe was able to kind of pick him apart a little bit in that 11th, and like I say, he was on the deck, I think it was 3 times. Billy Joe, you know, he's hit with that kind of, that curse that a few boxers have got, not just Billy Joe, and it is where you fight down to the level of your opponent, I feel. You know, there's argument for many boxers having this, but that is what he seems to do time and time again. You know, he'll box someone like a Willie Monroe Jr., he won't look that great. He'll box someone like an Artur Akavov, he won't look that great. He'll box someone like this. He probably hasn't done his homework on these guys. He probably hasn't heard of these guys until the fight was getting made. And I don't think he sees them as a threat. So I don't know if he's cutting corners in training or he just massively, mentally underestimates them and just ends up performing badly. But it's not the first time, and dare I say, it's probably not going to be the last time. I think even, as you said, a Gabe Rosado, I don't think that would be a good fight for him because he'll probably just look at his record, say, oh, I remember him getting punched around by Golovkin. I remember him, you know, losing to Selecki and stuff like that. I'll just beat him easy. And he'll probably end up having a hard night against him, you know. But we see him step it up against Chris Eubank Jr. He put on a great performance. It was a real close fight. I felt like he gassed out towards the end, but other than that, he was on his A game that night. And of course, his best performance of his career, hands down, has to be the performance against David Lemieux in Canada, where he just looked absolutely unbelievable that night. So he is a guy that fights to his opponent's level, and that's the worst thing about him, because people are going to look at this and say, I don't want to see him fight Canelo. People are going to look at this and say, I don't want to see him fight Golovkin. But the problem is, if he were to get those fights, which he may not now based on that performance, but if he were to get those fights, I definitely believe we'd see him at his best. And the best we have seen of him was against against the Lemieux, and he may even be able to go up higher than that level. It's yet to be seen because he hasn't fought a guy better than Lemieux yet, so it's tricky with Billy Joe. Everything seems to be tricky with him, from his boxing skills and his antics outside of the ring, but other than that, he's a fantastic fighter. He's one of our best talents here in Britain, and I want to see him get those fights, but I'm just not sure everyone else is on that train because of these type of performances, but he got his man out of there in the end, and it was a tough fight. So credit to Kosaras for certainly bringing it. That was I want to say that was his world title fight. It actually was his world title fight because he boxed for a world title, but he absolutely gave it his all there. That was probably his best performance as well. So credit to Kosaras. He really brought it. And of course, Billy Joe got the win in the end. That is, I suppose, all that matters. Also on that card, Diego Pacheco, a young prospect I've been trying to get on the show. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I think we need to get some of the Twitter listeners or the podcast listeners that have a Twitter account to try and keep attacking Diego Pacheco. Tell him to get on the show. He's now 7-0, a KO for him in the 4th round against Aaron Kasper. Kasper was down in the 1st round, and I think he was down twice in the 4th, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, moving off of Diego Pacheco in particular, if you are listening to me right now and there's anyone in world boxing that you want to get on the podcast, tweet them and just say, I'd like to see you on at the BoxHard Podcast or whatever, and we'll be happy pretty much to get anyone on. We're going to try and look at a few other types of levels of guys, because I feel like we've kind of been headhunting world champions this year. I mean, when you actually look at it, we've almost had a world champion or a world title challenger on every single show since the turn of 2019, which is crazy, because we're now coming to the end, and we've been pushing out all these big, whether it's big name fighters or big achievement fighters, at least every single week almost. So we do want to look at guys like Diego Pacheco, guys on the come up. We've had Teofimo Lopez on. It'd be great to get someone like a Virgil Ortiz on. These type of guys, we need to annoy them with tweets, so please help us out with that. Obviously the main event, KSI, no, we don't go there at all. Let's talk about Devin Haney, now 24-0. It was a defense of his WBC World Lightweight title. Obviously, it was his first legitimate world title fight. He was able to beat Alfredo Santiago, who was undefeated going in, but he's now 12-1. Even though Devin Haney pitched a complete shutout, a lot of people weren't really impressed. I was kind of zoning in and out of the fight. I wasn't really scoring it. He just seemed to be in control the whole time. He didn't really step on the gas when he probably could have. And, some people will criticise that. I understand the game. I'm not going to get too critical with him. I think he's a phenomenal fighter, and when he really does need to go through the gears, he will. So we'll give him a pass on that one. Again, he's now a legitimate world champion. He was elevated, but he's now had the fight. There was probably a few, butterflies and stuff like that for the occasion, perhaps on a big card like that. Whether you like it or not, there was millions and millions of eyes on the fights there. Also on that bill, Nikita Ababi managed to get a win. His opponent, Jonathan Batista, was actually disqualified in the very first round. I think he hit Ababi after the bell, if I'm not mistaken. So Ababi now 8-0. But that is everything for the review part of the show. We've tried to go through it as quick as possible. Just before we wrap up part 1, the same as always, it's now time to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated WBO number 6 ranked super featherweight in the world. It is, of course, Mr. Archie Sharp. Arch, welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me back on, mate. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. So, Arch, we last spoke back in September, not too long ago. It was fight week for your upcoming fight at the time against Declan Geraghty at the Royal Albert Hall. Let's start with that fight. I mean, what did you make of your performance, and talk me through that devastating knockdown blow that you landed to get the fight waved off in the end?
Yeah. So obviously, when they announced I was fighting Declan Geraghty, I had in my head I was going to stop this fella. He's a southpaw anyway, so left hook, right hand, or to the body. Do you know what I mean? My left hook was the main shot we was working on through that camp. And I think the first couple of rounds, I stood off him a little bit too much, and I was obviously a couple of rounds down. I got cut in the 3rd round, so that's when I knew I had to start putting it on him. And the minute I got close and landed the shot we was working on, it was obviously a good night.
It definitely was. I mean, a lot of people talking about it as potentially one of the knockout of the year candidates. Again, you know, there will always be critics. You know, you've barely lost a round as a professional archer, and of course, no one can go through their entire career, you know, without losing a round here and there. But you know, you were down on the cards. It's obviously, you know, a marathon, not a sprint. And to be honest, you know, it doesn't really matter who was winning a fight at a particular time in the fight. It matters who won, and of course that was you in statement-like fashion. I wasn't sure that we'd get to see you in the ring again before the end of the year, but we are going to get to see you. You're out once more. Tell us when and where, Arch, for those that don't know.
Yeah, so I'm boxing back out on the 21st of December, and that is at the Copper Box Arena. Daniel DeBar is headlining the show. I'll be defending my belt for the third time. And also Tommy Fury, the Love Island winner, is also being on the show.
They didn't win it, did they? They
were
close, weren't they? I think they come second, wasn't it? Didn't they come second?
Oh, was it the second? Yeah, second. To be honest with you, the final of that, I watched all the way through, and in the final, I was in Spain, so I didn't even see it. But yeah, the Amber won it, didn't she? Yes. Well, anyway, the second winners, Tommy and Molly. But yeah, Tommy's also on the show. Daniel DeBar and myself, and then a few other good fighters will also be on the show as well.
Yeah, I remember now. We had quite a few chats that we were ringing each other up talking about the Love Island, weren't we? Sad to say.
You're just as bad as me. You are, yeah.
Did you? Do you have anyone potentially lined up, Arch, for this fight, December 21st? I know obviously it's just been announced that you'll be fighting. I know you haven't actually got an opponent nailed down, but is there a bunch of guys you're looking at? Can you tell us anything at all, or is it too early?
Yeah. So there's been a few sent over to me, and then we've accepted all of them anyway. But it's just waiting on their side of the whoever comes back with the offer. So the offer's been put in, and the out of the two that we will be boxing. They have boxed for the WBO in the past, so they're definitely going to be live opponents. But yeah, we'll just see, because you know what it's like. 2 weeks ago, I was matched up, and then it all fell through. So you know what it's like. Hopefully, I shall hear by the end of this week with a confirmation of a fighter.
Absolutely. And did you happen to catch Jamel Herring's WBO world title defence on the weekend over Lamont Roach Jr. at all?
No, so basically, I've seen the highlights. I'm just waiting for it to upload so I can watch it on YouTube. I don't know if it has uploaded yet. I forgot to record it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I had Jamel Herring to win that, to be honest with you. Lamont Roach Jr. ain't a bad fighter, but I just think he's too small. From what I've been told, it was a close fight. And from what I watched on the highlights, it looked like a good fight. I see that Jamel got rocked in the 11th for a big shot. So yeah, it's definitely, like I say, it's definitely a fight that I've wanted from day dot. I respect Jamel Herring as a fighter. From what I've seen and the way that he conducts himself, he's a top champion. But it's definitely a fight that I know I can go on and win, and I can become the new WBO world champion. Lamont Roach Jr. ain't a bad fighter, but I knew he wouldn't bring much to the table. He was too small of a fighter for Jamel Herring.
And looking at the other champions right now, I mean, Gervonta Davis has moved up. A lot of people would have said he's probably the best fighter at 130. So with him out the way, obviously you've got Jamel Herring, you've got Miguel Berchelt, you've got Andrew Cancio now with the WBA, and of course Tevin Farmer with the IBF. What are your thoughts on those guys individually, Arch?
Yeah, so look, that Berchtelt's a very good fighter. He's definitely one of the strongest out of the champions. Tevin Farmer, also a good fighter, but see with Tevin, I think his style suits me down to the ground. He's a very good technician, but he's very short. So I think I'll outbox Tevin Farmer, and I think I can outbox Jamel Herring. And like you say, you've got the WBA super is what's his name?
Andrew Cancio.
Andrew, yes, So I had a little look at him. I don't know too much about him, but I've seen a little bit of him, not much, but more so. My eyes have been mainly set on Jamel Herring and Tevin Farmer, to be honest with you. Yeah. But I need to climb the IBF rankings before I even get the chance with Tevin.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, Tevin, we're hearing an announcement. He's pretty much imminent. It may even happen before we put the podcast out. But it looks like he'll be boxing Joseph Diaz Jr., I believe, at the back end of January. How do you see that fight playing out, Arch? That's obviously a tough fight for him.
Yeah, very tough fight. That Diaz is a strong man, and he's a very good fighter. I believe Tevin Farmer, he has come on a lot, and I think he is a good technician, and I think he'd outbox him. That's if he can hold him off for the 12 rounds. But I'm going to favour Tevin Farmer. But yet again, it's going to be another close and good fight for the super-featherweight division.
And just coming back to the kind of domestic scene for a minute, Zelfa Barrett obviously boxed your former opponent Jordan McCrory since we last spoke. To be fair to Zelfa, he boxed well. He got him out of there in 9 rounds. Did you happen to see it? Quite impressive.
No, do you know what? I didn't even see that fight. With the Bowens and the Barretts, look, I'm climbing 6 now in the WBL world ranking. I'm literally knocking at the door. It won't be long before I'm ready for these world title shots before I get the call up. So I've got another defence on the 21st. That's going to throw me up in the rankings again, hopefully. And I'll just keep chasing them world title fights. And if they're as good as what they're saying they are, then at the end of the day, look, Barrett's a very good fighter, yeah, and he did put McCrory away. And all respect to Jordan McCrory, he's a very tough opponent. But everybody knows, and everyone has seen my hand after the second or third round when my hand blew up after the body shot. That was it then. So maybe, who knows, you know what I mean? I might have had a different result. If my hands were brand new, I believe there would have been a different result there. Sam Bowen, he gets his face punched off by myself or Barrett. I think Barrett beats him. By the looks of what's happening, Bowen and Barrett's going to be next. In that time, I carry on climbing my rankings. And then, like I say, if they've got something to bring to the table when I've got my WBO world title, then the fights will happen. But the thing is, Barrett is a beaten man, and Bowen, he gets his head boxed off. He's got an hard fight in front of him against Cassius anyway, at the end of the month. But yeah, so listen, them fights will happen, 100% with me and Barrett, I reckon, because I think Barrett beats Bowen, like I said. It's just a matter of timing. It could happen next year. But for now, he's on his path, wanting to look for Bowen, and I'm on my path, trying to chase the WBO world title.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Who do you believe would win if they were to collide, Barrett and Bowen? But you've answered that one there.
Yeah, Barrett, mate. I think Barrett outboxed him.
Okay. And just finally, Arch, as always, any closing words for our listeners? You've obviously been quite a frequent guest, especially over the last couple of years. I think you've been on probably more times than any other fighter, so our listeners know you very well. But any closing words to your supporters that will be listening to this?
Yeah, just like I say, thanks very much for the support. It's been great support out there. And tuning in on the 21st of December, it's going to be a great night of boxing, and I'll be putting on another great performance. And yeah, thanks for the team and all the sponsors that were involved with Team Sharp. So yeah, I look forward to being out on the 21st. And like I say, thanks for having me back on the podcast.
Absolutely. Listen, Archie, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. We'll keep an eye out for a official announcement in terms of the opponent, but obviously we'll look forward to seeing you box once again, December 21st. Tickets on sale now, and I'm sure that we'll speak again after the fight.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Ayaz, what you got?
Yes, Daniel Jacobs will face Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. on December the 20th at the Talking Stick Arena in Phoenix.
At the Talking Stick Resort Arena. Yeah, I think that's a new one. I thought you initially said the Turning Stone. But anyway, yeah, the Talking Stick. Interesting. Jacobs versus Chavez Jr. We mentioned it on last week's show. There was supposed to be a blockbuster fight announcement. For me, it's not really a blockbuster fight, you know? I mean, is it for a belt? Is Jacobs a champion again? I've completely forgot.
No, he's not a champion.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I mean, it's a non-title bout. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. last in the ring, in a notable fight was obviously against Canelo, which was 2.5 years ago. So he's had the one fight since, and it was a first-round knockout earlier this year. So I've got no idea why that fight's happening. I think it's really a bit of a cash grab probably for Jacobs. I'm guessing people want to tune in to see Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But it's an easy fight for him, I think. I think he wins it easy. It probably does go points because, as critical as people are over Chavez Jr., the one thing is he's a tough guy. He stood in there against Canelo and showed how tough he was. And he's a tough guy. I think he will hang in there, over the distance. But yeah, not a fight I'm looking forward to, and for me, definitely not a blockbuster fight.
Yep. Okay. And finally, Richard Riakpo will face Jack Macy, also on the undercard with Fabio Wardley, Charles Frankham, Shannon Courtney, and Luther Clay will face Kiewit.
Yeah, that one to take place at the York Hall on December 19th. I think that's is that a Friday night or something like that? I think it is. Or it might be a Thursday night. We'd have to double check that one. But anyway, yeah, Fabio Wardley takes on Simon Vallily. That's a brilliant fight, by the way. Richard Riakpo against Jack Massey, as you said, and Luther Clay in a bit of a step up against the pretty tough but not invincible Freddie Kiewit. Those three fights mentioned are great fights. Obviously, there was rumours that Craig Richards would be fighting Shakan Pitters on that bill as well. No clue what's gone on with that. I'd love to have seen that take place on that as well, but quite frankly, that's too good of a card for York Hall if they were to add that as well. I'm being completely honest there. I think it's more like a copper box kind of show. I'll find out from Craig Richards what's going on with that, what's the latest with that. Hopefully there'll be an update at the end of the show. I'll try and ask him and get back to you guys, but it doesn't look like he's going to be on that one. And no, it's a great night of boxing. I think the tickets are probably going to be quite cheap, if I'm not mistaken, because it's right by Christmas. I think tickets start at £40 and they go up to $130 at the very best. So yeah, not a bad night of boxing there actually for quite cheap. But yeah, that's it for that one. Is that it for the news?
Yes, that's it for the news.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayaz. Moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here, a card that's taking place tomorrow at the Margaret Court Arena in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. The two Maloney brothers, Andrew Maloney, 20-0, takes on Elton Dari, who's 24-5 with one draw. That one's for the interim WBA World Super-Flyweight title. And his brother, his twin brother, Jason Maloney, 19-1. He fights for the WBA Oceania Bantamweight title against Dixon Flores. That one's going to be on ESPN Plus, by the way. I think that's the first fight that both Maloney brothers are having since signing with Top Rank. I think that's what's going on with those guys at the minute. Moving out now to the Olympia in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom. This one is taking place again tomorrow. It's one of those weird cards that happens in the north. You know, with quite a star-studded kind of lineup against opponents that don't really stand a chance. Let's talk about Natasha Jonas, 8-1. She takes on Bianca Majaf, who's 3-3. She's a Hungarian, 25 years of age. Also on that bill we have Terry Flanagan, former world champion, 35-2. He takes on Jairo Duran, who's 14-6. Again, I just can't really understand that. Duran's actually got a loss to Rod Sauker on his record. Boy, oh boy. Also on the bill we have Martin Murray, 38-5 with one draw. He takes on Sladan Janjanin, who's 27-4. He's got a loss to Stephen Butler. Also topping that bill, I think it's topping the bill, Rocky Fielding, again former world champion, 27-2. He takes on Abdallah Paziwapazi, who's 26-6 with one draw. He's got 23 KOs though, so he obviously can bang. 26 years of age. He's already got a fight lined up after this one for the 28th of December. He's got a loss to Umar Salamov, a first round knockout where he got stopped there, and of course he lost also to Leon Bauer. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. It's just completely full of gimme fights, but again, a bit of a star-studded cast. Moving out now to the Salt Palace in Salt Lake City, Utah, USA. Two fights to mention on this one. Junior Farr, the undefeated heavyweight prospect, 18-0. He takes on Devin Vargas, 21-5 over 10. And Dennis Duglin, friend of the show, 22-6. He's in an 8-rounder against Mike Guy, who's 11-4 with one draw. Moving out now to Germany at the Hall Messi Arena in Saxon-Anhalt. Over here we have Dominic Bozell, 29-1. He takes on Sven Thornling, who's 15-1. This one's for the interim WBA World Light Heavyweight title. So They're trying to move him towards Bivol by the looks of it. Moving out now to the York Hall Bethnal Green. This one obviously has been rescheduled. It all went wrong when I think Fonseca collapsed or something about 2 months ago, something like that, or even less. I think it's even less actually. This one's for the vacant IBO World Super Featherweight title. Alex Dilmagani, 19-1. He takes on Francisco Fonseca, 25-2 with one draw. John Joe Nevin, 13-0, takes on Freddie Fonseca, 27-4 with one draw. That one's for the vacant WBA International Super Featherweight title. Mick Hennessy Jr. gets out on that one as well, 2-0 with one draw, no opponent just yet. That's a 4-rounder there. Moving out now to the Emirates Arena in Glasgow, Scotland. We have over here Lee McGregor, 7-0. He fights for the Commonwealth and British bantamweight titles against Yukashir Farouk. Cash Farouk, they call him. Very good fighter, 13-0. That one for me, arguably fight of the weekend. That is an excellent fight. I think there's been a bit of talk between them for a while, and the fight is finally on. Also on that bill, by the way, not to go unnoticed, Kieran Smith's in a 10-rounder against Vincenzo Bevilacqua. That one is for the WBC International Silver Super Welterweight title. Bevilacqua, 16-0. Moving out now to the final bill, though. It takes place at La Fontaine Blue in Maryland, USA. Friend of the show, Hassim Rahman Jr., if anyone saw his pound-for-pound top 10 list the other week, he got a bit of stick for that. But anyway, 8-0 as a professional, a 4-rounder here against Lance Gulch, who's 8-11 with 3 draws. And also on the bill, one to look out for in the future, Lorenzo Simpson, 5-0, known as, I think they call him the Big Truck. I think is he the truck? I think he's not the Big Truck, he's just the truck. I don't think he's too big of a man. But anyway, he's in a 6-rounder against Delvicio Savage, who's 3-4 with one draw. And that is everything for the preview part of the show. Just before we wrap up everything, the same as always, it's now time to welcome our second and final guest on this week's show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated heavyweight prospect. It is, of course, Mr. Cassius Chaney. Cassius, welcome back on the show, my man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. How you doing, Jack?
Very good, my friend, very good. Great to speak to you again. Of course, we last spoke in June 2016. It's been a really long time. It was actually the podcast after Muhammad Ali had passed away. But on a brighter note, how have you been, Cassius? Like I say, it's been ages.
I've been great, just growing, both mentally and physically. It seems slow, but, I can't complain. I'm just growing, taking my time, and I'm getting better. So I don't have any, I don't know. I don't have any complaints.
Now, I think at the time when we last spoke, you were like 6-0, maybe 7-0. And I remember after we did that interview, ever since it happened, I'd always mention to our listeners that you had a fight coming up soon. I'd always mention the result of each fight you've had ever since then. I've been doing it for 3.5 years, but, you're now a perfect 17-0, 11 KOs. My question is, are you happy with your progression? Are you where you'd hoped you'd be by November 2019?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I would say I'm surprised at where I am, sort of, in the sense that I was going through so much stuff with management and, where they wanted me to train and trainers, that my whole mindset was just win the fights. Don't worry about, taking unnecessary chances and things like that. My mindset was just train as best as you can and win the fight. So I guess, when I think about it, I'm not surprised because I always believed and had confidence in myself. But I will say that I'm surprised with how quick people forget, and it's funny because, I'm not a person that's going to hold too many grudges. I just use them as motivation for myself. But, it's interesting to see, how certain guys that have, was involved with my career as far as management, blah, 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 are now, interested in it again. It's crazy to me.
And I remember promotionally, I think at the time you were with Main Events, perhaps. Are you still with them, or have you cut ties?
I'm still with Main Events,
okay,
and it's kind of funny because, you would think that in this business, man, your promoter would be the first one that's like, nah, he ain't got it. He ain't got it. But, like I said, if I'm able to concentrate on this, and I've shown this year with the restructure of this contract, what I was able to do just this year, because I'm going to do what I need to do with whatever I'm getting, compensation-wise. I'm going to put it into what I'm doing. And I've shown progression, and that's all I can ask for. Like, I'm behind maturity-wise. I know that, as far as boxing and maturity-wise. But I think that, when you're able just to do what you need to do, you're going to get better and you're going to mature at it, and that's what I showed this year.
And again, you're coming off 6 consecutive knockout wins. Your last 3 fights in a row have all ended in the very first round. The last one against Salgado was highlight reel material. Have you enjoyed racking up these recent knockouts, especially the quick ones?
I would want some rounds, but at the same time, it's funny because I should knock those guys out, and I fought, maybe stiffer to the same competition when I was, starting out, but I wasn't able to concentrate on boxing. I wasn't able to concentrate on just training and doing what I needed to do. But, now that I don't have a manager, it's actually easier because whatever I get paid per fight, boom, I'm able just to pay for my training for what I know works for me. Before, when somebody else is doing it, they're paying for what they envision works for you. And sometimes instead of it being a partnership, it's like, you got to do it this way. And I'm saying, listen, that don't work for me. CrossFit and all that don't really work for me that well. So now I feel a little bit better that, I've shown that these guys, like the guys that I should have been knocking out before, I'm knocking out now. Yeah, they got a little bit more experience, but hey, I'm showing that, I've gotten better.
And your next fight date, I believe, is already set, November 27th against Nick Jones in New Hampshire, am I right?
Yes, sir.
And that one will be for the vacant WBC United States heavyweight title. I'm guessing, based off of that, seeing as it's a minor WBC bout, I'm guessing you're going to try to go down that path in terms of their rankings and stuff?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I guess it all depends on what Main Events has planned. I believe that. I think this title is just one that's vacant in the area, in the region. I think Steve Acosta and Joe Casamano fought for it previously. And I always thought that would have been a good fight for me and Casamano, but it didn't happen like that. And I think Steve Acosta vacated it. So I just think it's something just, for me to get my feet wet, and it would be a good look for me if I could just, put on a good performance and win and then come back and, hopefully start to, defend it in Connecticut at Mohegan Sun or in Baltimore, wherever.
And again, your opponent for this fight, Nick Jones, a record of 7-2, 7 wins in a row until running into his last couple of defeats that happened consecutively. The first one to Efia Jagba, a fighter that seems like he's going to have a brilliant future in the sport. And then, of course, to Rodney Hernandez, who a lot of people would say is quite a few levels down from a Jagba. I'm guessing, you want to have a bright future in the sport. You probably place yourself around about the kind of same level as a Jagba at the minute, perhaps even higher. So I'm guessing you want to do a similar job to what a Jagba did and get this guy out of there early.
Yeah, I mean, if that comes about, the last few fights, honestly, I've been saying, just go and have fun, just do what you do, and that's what's happened. But, whenever I think about getting a knockout, I don't really get it. I never get it. So now I'm just going there smooth, relax, and once I get my range down, it's cool. So I think it's really up to it's really up to me, but I'm saying it's up to him as well on how he wants to come out and do it. I'll be ready, and I'm ready, and I'm focused. But yeah, I looked at the Jagba fight, and I know Rodney Hernandez is a tough guy, but I do feel like I need the rounds as well. You know what I mean? I've been getting guys if you think about it this year, I've only fought 3 minutes, so hopefully, he's smarter than what he looks on, how he boxes, but, I'm not going to go in there to play around either. You know, if I can clip him, I'm going to try to clip him. So, you know, that's just how it is with the sport.
And have you been sparring anyone with a big name since we last spoke? Because I remember you came over here, you did some work with the Furies. I know you sparred Eddie Chambers, I think, back in the States. Any other big names you've sparred in the last few years since we haven't spoke?
Yeah, I'll take the hat out the bag. The last person I sparred was Otto Wallin for the Fury.
Oh, wow.
And that was a great experience because, you know, probably since the Tyson Fury camp, that particular camp, as far as how his team was structured, it allowed me to see a lot, and you know, and it helped me as far as understanding maybe like what I'm going to need going forward. You know, the structure, the organization, the more of the detail, and yeah, it was cool sparring. I liked it a lot.
And of course, Otto Wallin gave Fury a number of problems, especially when the cut occurred. But a lot of people, as they have been doing for the last couple of fights, you know, if Tyson Fury doesn't fight someone that's not called Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder, people like to say, "Who's this guy? Where did they get him from? He's no good." How good was Otto Wallin though behind closed doors? Is he still a guy that has a bright future in the heavyweight division?
Yeah, of course. He's much better and much more personable than what, you know, maybe he seems. Is kind of crazy because, like, you know, I was taking a train down, and after sparring, I would take the train, you know, catch my train back, and he was literally like at one point standing next to me, and I didn't even know I just finished sparring with him, and I didn't even notice who he was, you know. So he doesn't even look like, you know, he kind of resembles like a tennis player or something. You would never think he's a fighter, but he was literally standing next to him. I'm like, oh, I just finished sparring with you. What's up, man? And he directed me to my train, but it's like, you know, he's much more mobile than what you may think. And, you know, his team, his coach Joey, he's a really sharp trainer, man. He came up around Manuel Stewart, so he understands, I guess, big guys and things like that. And, you know, there's little things I learned and picked up working with Otto that I enjoyed.
And a rematch I wanna put your way. Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. Obviously, that rematch takes place November 23rd. Is that a fight that interests you from a fan's point of view? I mean, we saw the first fight. You know, Ortiz put up a great effort, but ultimately Wilder was able to stop him in quite brutal fashion. Are you interested in the rematch, or do you reckon it's just going to be a repeat and there's no real need for us all to see it again? I'm
interested in a rematch, and this is why I really feel like this is where I got to give a guy like Wilder respect in a sense from a fighter standpoint is, you know, he's taking on an opponent that really nobody really want to sit there and fight, but he's taking that opponent on because it wasn't as easy as it was, you know, as he may have wanted it to be. So, but I think Ortiz is taking it serious as well because he's seen guys of recent have success that, you know, are the first for that, you know, poachers, you know, Andy Ruiz, you know, just did it, you know, so I think it's going to be a lot more interesting than what, you know, people may think. I don't have a pick in it. I don't have a horse in it. I just want to see a great fight. And I think both of them are, you know, hard workers, and they're going to, you know, put on a show.
And I hope you do have a pick in the next one. The other rematch, of course, December 7th, Saudi Arabia, Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz. Is it revenge or is it repeat? How do you see it playing out?
I don't even, you know, it's weird because like I usually go for the underdogs, but I don't know if there's an underdog in this one. It's like they both the underdogs, kind of. You know what I mean? Andy's trying to keep the belt, and Josh is trying to get the belts back. You know, so you know, man, I just want to see a good fight. You know, if Joshua can show some boxing, that would be real, you know, smooth, cool. But I think his eternal instincts are just to bang the person off him. So, but Andy, man, he tough, man. I don't know. That's a tough one too, man. He killing me. Yeah, that's a tough one too, man. I just want to see a good fight. Like I said, I don't know neither one of them, so I can't really I can't really pick, off the top of my head.
All right, let's see if you can pick a winner in this one then. On the undercard of that, I believe it's the Chiefs' support actually to that one. Another real mouth-watering heavyweight clash. American Michael Hunter against Russia's Alexander Povetkin. How do you see that one playing out? Great fight.
Oh, I'll pick on that one. I'm going with Michael Hunter on that one. Easy. Not easy that I think it's going to be easy, but I think Povetkin, since he's been fighting clean, has shown signs of, he's not as naturally, I'm not going to say gifted, but he's not as naturally powerful, like just strong like he was when he was like getting through like with the juicing and stuff. But I think Michael Hunter is a really good boxer. He's showing that. If you're not athletic and can get to him and get out, he's going to give you problems. So I got Michael Hunter by decision, and I won't be surprised if it's by a knockout, but I do got him by decision.
And I want to ask you, because this intrigues me now from what you've said about these heavyweights. Who do you believe are the top 5 best heavyweights in the heavyweight division from 1 to 5, if you have a top 5?
My top 5 would be me, but nobody knows it yet. I'm serious. Wilder. Oh man, Fury or Ruiz. Dang man, that's a tough one. Wilder. After me, Joshua, Eddie Ruiz, Fury, and I gotta say Dillian White. I think Dillian White's in there.
Okay.
I think Dillian White. And I got Dillian White. He could be anywhere from that 5 to 4 range.
Yeah. But
he's not getting that chance. Oh, I'm sorry. Ortiz is in there too. So I'm gonna say. Only reason why I would say Ortiz over Dillian White right now is because he's getting the chances. He's getting no chances. Dillian White really hasn't had the chance, other than the Reader situation, but he hasn't really had the consistent chances to fight for a title.
And just coming down to the last couple questions now, Cassius, I want to ask, what are your goals for the year 2020? In a realistic world, where do you want to be this time next year?
If I do what I'm able to do, for my next fight, I just want to perform well. I'm looking at, getting somebody in that top 15, somewhere in that range. I see a lot of guys is getting chances. Like Philip, what's his name? Philip, how you pronounce his last name?
Hrgović.
Philip Hrgović is fighting Eric Molina. Yeah. Otto Wallin was going to fight BJ Flores before he got the Fury opportunity. You know what I mean? And so I think it's proper fights out there for me. Like Kubrat Pulev was about to fight, was just for Radel Booker. Franklin fought Jerry Forrest. So it's proper fights, that make sense, that help me, but I would like to start headlining in Connecticut and, just getting some fights under that main event situation, because it's just a different lights, a different timing. I want to start getting those main events, done. So I just, I want to, just get better. I want to fight, that's the reason why I'm in it. You know what I mean? So I think 2020 is going to be a real good year. Yeah.
Absolutely, I certainly hope so. And just before I let you go, Cassius, if you've got any closing words at all, just for our listeners, if you've got any kind of final message before we let you go, now's the time.
Of course. I just want to say thank you to the listeners. Thank you to you for putting me on the podcast. Of course, thank you to my family, my friends, every single trainer that has helped me at any capacity, sparring, anything, any sparring partners, whatever. I just want to say thank you, of course, and I'm just going to continue to work hard and, and get better. Appreciate it. Of course, thank you to Main Events as well, by the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, Cassius, it has been a real pleasure catching up with you, my friend. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
And I promise I won't leave it this long to speak with you again, sir.
No, it's all good. You don't get your butt whooped in Call of Duty, man. Stop ducking me.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 213 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the undefeated super-featherweight prospect Archie Sharp and the undefeated heavyweight prospect Mr. Cassius Chaney. Both men, of course, having their fights over the next few weeks, really. Both men, we wish the best of luck, and both men, of course, have real bright futures in the sport. A massive thank you to all of you guys once again, as always, for listening to this week's podcast and all the others. I did get to speak to Craig Richards just briefly. He tells me that the fight with him and Shakan Pitters is still in the negotiation phase. He didn't say for when or where, but again, I'm guessing it won't be on that December card. But that's about everything from myself and Ayaz. Remember to tell a friend to tell a friend. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you do have the time. I cannot tell you how much those reviews mean to us. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we hope to see you all again next week.